Mental health. I think I did a live video earlier today because I did a video about 3 weeks ago on YouTube. It was a fucked up video. It was me sort of crying, just being an absolute ball video. And obviously, me and you have spoke a lot over the last like 2 to 3 weeks. And as a friend, I even mentioned you in the live video. It's still up. It'll be on YouTube still. I mean, I did that earlier today. And yourself, my partner, you know, a few other friends and family and stuff have been there and sort of, how can I put it? Baby stepped me through getting my fucking head back on straight and back to reality. And what I wanted to discuss, I don't think it would be fair of me to start talking about mental health and videos if I wasn't using myself and say per se using yourself for things that we've not necessarily gone through, but how we've transitioned through things. And for you, you've already transitioned through stuff from your past and you're in a better place. I'm sort of in the process of doing that now. So now I speak to Caroline from, I'll tell you where she's from. Bear me 1 second. They're called Out. So basically, you go online if you're stressed or whatever, you register with them, and it's sort of like a text service. So Caroline is now my sort of text counselor, so to speak. So I can message you literally 24/7. So obviously, I've had some issues that I've had to come to terms with from my past. I've spoke to you about some of those issues. One of those issues was when I was a child, when I was about 6 years old, 7 years old. I was abused by an older boy from my street. And one of the things that I've been doing with Caroline is writing a journal. So in this journal, I didn't even know what I was supposed to write. She said, "Luke, just start writing what sort of things happened, how it happened. Once you've written it out, you know, it's out there, you can burn it, you can, you know, shred it, whatever you want to do." And it's supposed to be like some sort of therapeutic way of
like get it all out and let it go.
Yeah, exactly that. So I did that. I showed it to my girlfriend because I felt like there were some things I couldn't speak on within that. And I thought if she reads it, she knows. And I suppose it's sort of a lazy way of me letting her know. But over the last, sorry?
Until you actually accept what happened and let it go, it's hard to talk about. I spent most of my life, I couldn't talk about my past until I hit like 35 or something, and I had a big change.
I'm 35 now, so it's pretty much the same thing. So what we were doing over the last few nights, when I was at her house quarantining, we'd sort of go back and forth. So obviously she's had things that have happened to her in her past, that we all have. And I think it was she's sort of breaking my guard down by telling me her things. So it sort of put her in a vulnerable position. So maybe that when I said something, we were both sort of on an even keel of that vulnerability. So I'm obviously not going to speak on what happened to me as a kid.
Great way of building trust.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And it was I felt better more after that than I did writing it down. Like writing it down, it took me quite some time. It was probably 3 pages. It probably wasn't like literally everything. And it took me probably about 4 or 5 hours to write it down. And I did have a few drinks while I was writing it because I was getting upset. And it was a hard thing to do. So then, like, you know, sitting down with my partner, we've been going through these things and other things. I've had other issues with, like, you know, my little brother died from bullying. And then my dad died last year. And I think it just got to a point where all that shit sort of mounted up for me. And I had nothing to, like, get this shit out. Do you know what I mean? So when I did
suppress it and
very
it didn't happen in a way and just go inside yourself.
Yeah, and it was sort of that I did that video, and things happened after the video that I don't really want to touch on. Like you're obviously aware what happened after the video, but the point is, those things happened. I'm now sort of, working through what I need to do in a way that's going to put me in a better position. Now, obviously, you sent me a lot of information over the past few weeks. And as soon as I told you, it was quite surprising because I've talked to other, Mark Lobliner reached out, Kenny KO, William Bonnet, loads of people reached out, but it was very short and very how to do. Like, are you all right? Yeah, okay. And then it was like, oh, okay. Not that I don't appreciate that, but out of all the guys that reached out, you were the most consistent person to keep following up. How's things? How are you going? And sometimes I didn't even reply, so I can only apologize. But
no, I understand when you're in that time, sometimes you just don't want to talk. You don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You need time to process it. I was just trying to tell you things that maybe you can try and do when you're ready. And there's still a lot more that I can give you. But these are just things like that. I was in a really bad place for most of my life, and like yourself, I suppressed it all. From a young age, I had an alcoholic father, and he had abused us. He used to slap us about, but more so like rape my mom on a regular basis, smash the house and things. It wasn't a good upbringing, and I kind of suppressed all that, and I couldn't talk about it and pretended it didn't happen. And I lived most of my life holding on to this hatred and this anger. I went through suicidal thoughts when I was a kid. I used to self-harm a lot. The training helped a lot. When I got into training, I used to cut myself and people would notice. So when I started training, I started doing it because I could hurt myself so bad in the gym, and I was only getting positive effects from it. I was growing, I was getting stronger, and nobody was getting like where them scars come from, where them quads come from. It's from me killing myself in the gym as a way of self-harming. It was only later on I got in life, I started to realize I started off as a runner cross country, and I was a little skinny kid. We didn't have much food, we didn't have money, so I was very undernourished when I was a child. I was the little skinny kid. So I got into running first time at school. I was pushed into something, and I was always running away from home, and I was running a lot. So going through all that shit give me this kind of mental strength that you never give up. So when we was at school and we was doing like cross country and stuff, you get tired, you get to the point you can't physically go anymore. Any normal kid is just going to stop and walk. It's painful. Why would you? I couldn't do that. I had to cross the line. I had to finish even if I was being sick or crawling. And that enabled me to beat kids twice the size. So the first time I won the cross-country district championships. And that was the first time in my life somebody said, well done, and I felt significant. So every human's got 6 needs. One of those needs is to feel significant. The first time I felt that, it was so good. I wanted more, and it got addictive. So that pushed me to do more and more. Then I got into martial arts a little later, and I was very lucky to have, he's a friend of the family, this Thai boxing instructor, Wayne Parsons, really good guy. He taught me discipline and respect. I was at that age and the crossroad. I could have went a bad way. He kind of nudged me to a good path in life. He taught me good morals. And I really believe from a child, I got the mental strength. The martial arts gave me the strength and the discipline. And I got into weight training, and it gave me strength and confidence. So all these years, it built up and built up to the person that I am. And then I really believe when I let go of all the anger and everything that happened to us from a kid, I realized that it wasn't my fault. I felt worthless. I felt that I don't deserve to live. When I finally realized that I do deserve to live, I did nothing wrong. It was out of my control. Why am I punishing myself? So when I got to that point, I realized then that everything that I went through built me up to make me who I am today. Yeah. And if I hadn't gone through that, there's no way I've had the mental strength or any of it to be able to achieve a fraction of what I have. So I've got like this superpower from going through that bullshit. So now when I look back, I'm not saying any of it was right or wrong, what my dad did, and later on he got cancer and I had to watch him suffer and die, and it was horrible. But at that point, I forgave him, And I'm actually grateful for what we went through to get me to where I am today, because there's no way I could have been where I am without that mental mindset. So I really do believe sometimes we have to go through these journeys, and when you can find the good in the worst of situations, that's when your life starts to change.
I think like when you speak, there's a lot of things that you've done that I've done as well. Now, I have a very fucked up relationship with the Hulk. And I'll try and explain why. It sounds very stupid. Growing up, I used to watch the Hulk a lot, like the Lou Ferrigno way back when, the proper Hulk. And what happened was when I was abused this one time, I was only 6. I remember in my head at the time thinking, oh, when, Eric Banner gets angry, that happens, and then he's huge, he's jacked, you can't fuck with him, he's indestructible. And I can remember at the time trying to get angry whilst, shit was going on to me. And nothing happened. And then I got so I watched more and more of the Hulk, thinking, what was I doing wrong? Like he can just do it like at the drop of a hat. And then my sister sort of got in a relationship with a bodybuilder at the time. I say bodybuilder, I use the term very loosely. He was a jacked guy. Looking back, he was probably like, in my head, enormous. But nowadays, just like probably a bit of pecs and abs. And he was like, he said to me one day, no, you can get big by lifting weights. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, if you just get some weights at home and a bench, you can put on some muscle. I was like, right, okay. And then my mom came to me one day and she was like, do you want to start boxing? I was like, yeah. And I'm thinking, right, I can put muscle on. I can learn how to fight. And for me, it wasn't until I started writing all this shit down that I realized that I've been telling the same story for years, that, I got into bodybuilding because of this guy, my sister was dating or going out with at the time. And there was a deeper thing to it. And I think it was that fucked up disconnection I've got with the Hulk of thinking that, if I'm ever in that situation again, I need to be bigger. I need to be stronger. I need to be in a tougher position where I can fight for myself. And I think it actually came from that. I don't think it came from just this random guy saying, oh, you can get big lifting weights.
It sounds exactly what I went through, mate. Like watching my mom get raped and us getting slapped around. All that went through my head as I'd grown up is that I need to be bigger, I need to be stronger, I need to be able to fight and defend myself and my loved ones. When I started training and I started Thai boxing, I did a few fights and I won them all. I said to myself, I will never, ever allow a loved one to be hurt in my presence ever again. And that's what really pushed me and drove me. And I think deep down, exactly saying that's how the brain works. It's always trying to find a way to protect itself. And of course, we see these movies, and I mean, as a kid who's growing up, you're watching the Arnold movies, and the big strong guy, he's the hero. And when I looked at the bodybuilding mags, I was looking at people like Lee Priest and looking up to these guys, thinking, wow, nobody would fuck with that. Do you know what I mean? So you're lifting these weights, you start seeing physical changes, you're getting stronger, you're doing the pad work and sparring. I got to the point, like, everyone in my Thai boxing class, I mean, I advanced above them all because I had this mindset. I push more. Even we do our classes 3 to 5 times a week. When I'm not in the classes, I'm at home in the garden doing it, or I'm in the instructor's garden sparring with him. I always want more. It gets so addictive because it was fulfilling some of those needs that we need to get out of. So
I think you're exactly right. Like, and for some reason, I obviously suppressed a lot of the shit that happened. And I think going forward, I sort of maybe changed the story myself because I didn't want to relate it to that. And again, I think you're right with the fact that obviously we all want to be stronger. We all want to be in a position where if anything does happen, we can, fight his way out of a situation, or, lift a car off someone. I don't know, whatever the situation may be. We're all trying to be ahead of the curve almost. But for me, like, looking back, I had the issue of trying to figure out, like, why did I think at 6 that if I got angry, I would turn into the Hulk? And obviously I'm 6. Whatever you watch on the telly is a 6-year-old, you think is
subconsciously it's going in. You're seeing that, and it's going in. I mean, a child from when he's born, from 0 to 6, 7 years old, his brainwaves don't go above theta. Theta is like hypnosis state, and it does that for when a child's born into a family or society to fit in. There's thousands and thousands of rules. You can't teach a child every one of those rules. So they live in this theta brainwave state as a hypnosis state. So everything they see is going into your subconscious and making these programs that will stick with you for the rest of your life unless you learn how to change them. So whatever a child sees is going to drum into him, and he's going to be like that. And like you're saying, only now you're probably realizing and understanding why you started doing these things, because you've seen it somewhere. You've seen David Banner. Is it David or Bruce Banner? Sorry.
Bruce Banner, sorry.
And he's getting just a normal Weasley guy. He's getting bullied and this and that. You feel weak. That's you. And then when somebody bullies him, he turns into the Hulk, and nobody fucks with the Hulk. And subconsciously, you want that. So then you get into training to try and train yourself to become that. So how your brain works on it.
I can remember, I think it was maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks after, whatever had happened. And my dad had said, oh, the Hulk's on. Do you want to watch the Hulk? And I was like, no. I felt so disappointed. And the whole thing, the Hulk, Banner, the franchise of it. And it's always I've got a few Hulk characters in my fucking cabinet. I've got Hulk mugs. I've got this weird thing about the Hulk. And I never knew why. I just thought, it was to do with muscles and bodybuilding. It wasn't until I started writing this stuff down that it was, I was this kid that was getting fucking abused. And the only thing I could think of in a desperate attempt at the time was because I felt so weak and vulnerable and I couldn't physically do nothing to get this lad off me, was get angry, turn green, break free sort of thing. And I think now, moving past that, I am tempted to get rid of everything I've got Hulk-wise, just for the sake of it, just so it's do you know what? Fuck you, Hulk.
Don't go exposing yourself to loads of gamma radiation. It's going to work. You might just get cancer or something.
But I genuinely believe that that's the reason why I got into boxing. I believe that's why I got into cage fighting, weights. I think it was, again, to realistically and humbly to put myself in a better position if anything happened again, to know that I was more than strong enough. And again, this is another thing that you touched on with your running. Doesn't matter if someone was ahead of you, you'd make yourself sick. You ever feel when you're training, you have your normal days, your normal training days, you're hitting, sometimes you're hitting PRs, you're just going through the motions. But do you ever feel sometimes you're training that hard and that is your, what's the word? That's your punishment. You're punishing yourself with weights. I always felt like I was doing that. Sometimes I'd be in the wrong mindset. I'd always lift heavier. I'd always lift beyond what I'd normally do, even if it was a couple of kilos or 20 kilos. But I always felt like if I wasn't in that right mindset, I was punishing myself with weights. Have you ever had that?
Well, when I first started weight training, every session was like that for years, until I felt I was worth something. The only reason I trained was to hurt myself, to punish myself. It's my kind of self-harm, until I started to enjoy it. And then when I finally realized that I gained this self-worth, I didn't have to punish myself anymore. I'd been training that way for so long, that's all I knew. I actually enjoyed it then. So I look forward to that leg session once a week when you're spewing up and squatting to your guts are coming out your asshole. You know what I mean? It's to me, and because nobody likes pain. Every action you do is to either avoid pain or gain pleasure. The pain of me squatting was massively outweighed of me beating everybody in the gym. The pleasure I got of squatting 5 plates for 20 reps, that made me feel significant. Do you know what I mean? That's one of those needs, and it's really one of the priorities on my list. I need to feel significant in some way. Everyone will find a way. Say, for instance, maybe you covered yourself in tattoos to stand out, make yourself feel significant in some way.
Yeah.
Or maybe Lambo would tell you this. He got all these tattoos to start with to look hard, to
I agree.
scare people away. And he's like, fucking hell, I couldn't fight for shit. Okay, I'll give it a go, but I know he's going to batter me. I'm just hoping it fucking scares him.
I agree. Yeah.
Some people will cover themselves in facial tattoos and make them look a certain way to feel significant. Some people will study their ass off and become the most intelligent person they can become so smart so they feel significant. I did it by pushing myself to the limits and trying to beat anybody in any gym and winning bodybuilding shows and building my body like this because it gave me that feel of significance. Everyone will find a way to do it. Depends where it is on your priority list to how much energy and effort you put into it.
So to try and bring this back to sort of our audience, what examples would you give or things people could do in the bodybuilding world? So if it's to do with, like you were telling me, basically I needed to sort of restructure, so to speak, my mindset. So if I was feeling down, to get up and do something positive, force a smile, those sorts of things that sort of chemically change things. But what can they do that you've applied personally in sort of the bodybuilding globe, so to speak? Can you pass on? So what have you done?
There's so many things that I did. I could touch on a few. Like, okay, for people that don't train, I would highly recommend getting into some kind of training because the fastest way to change your mind state is to change your physiology. As soon as you start moving, say, we touched on this before when we said like a depressed person, if he'd be on the wall, how would he be sat? And you said he'd be down, slumped, shallow breathing. I'm like, how do you know he's behind a fucking wall? Because you know you've been there at some point. And anybody in the world, no matter what race, what culture, will have similar physiology when they're in that mind state. Same as if you're angry, you're probably breathing like, you might be clenching your fist and you're moving, you're agitated. When you recognize the signs, whatever your mental state, whatever emotion you're feeling, your body will be doing a certain thing. When you recognize what your body's doing, then you can instantly change it. So for a depressed person, somebody who's generally quite down, a lot of lazy people get like fat, lazy and depressive because they don't move around much. They're always in this slump position. So when you're in that slump position, you start to feel down, and you then, it has a knock-on effect to the food you eat, and you're not moving much, so you start to gain weight, you don't like what you see, so you get more depressed. It's a vicious circle. So anyone that's not doing any kind of training, finds any kind of exercise, cardio, weights that you may enjoy, get into it, because as soon as you start moving, first of all, it gets the blood pumping, it releases endorphins, which makes you feel good at that time. But also, the knock-on effect of moving a lot more is going to make your body fitter and look better. You need, I think, two things you need to be happy. One is gratitude. Most people that are down or depressed only focus on what they want and don't have, or they have a story in their head, and when reality doesn't match their story, they're pissed off. So you need gratitude. When whatever you focus on is what you feel. Focus on what you don't have, you're pissed off. If you have gratitude and all you focus on is what you do have and what you're grateful for. And when people are in that mindset, they're like, well, I've got nothing to be grateful for. When you woke up this morning, you was above the ground, you're not fucking dead, there's something to be grateful for. You got a roof over your head, you got food, 2/3 of the world live on $2 a day. You're doing a lot better than fucking most. There's a lot to be grateful for if you look for it. So focus on gratitude, you'll start to feel better about yourself. Gratitude is the main one. The second one we need is progress. Whenever you're moving forward in anything in life, you feel good. So again, training is brilliant because you see visual and feel it straight away. If my goal is to lose a bit of fat and I start training, I can measure it every week. I've lost a pound on the scales. Yes, I feel a bit good now. makes me want to push and do a little bit more. I start to see lines in my abs or in my muscles that I've never seen before, where I'm lifting an extra 2-3 kilo every single week. If you're constantly progressing, you're constantly feeling good about yourself. If you concentrate on those two things alone, your whole life will start to change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you got to change your mindset. Again, just if I'm in a depressive state, the old glass is half empty. You're either pissed off, fuck's sake, I've only got half of it left. And that's how they look at it. Or when you're in a positive mindset, you're like, yes, I still got half left. How can you look at the same thing and have two completely different mindsets? It's the way you're looking at things. So the first thing, change your physiology. Recognize what you're doing. You're in that down state. Get up, get moving. Instantly, your mind will follow. So that depressed person who was behind the wall, if you make him stand up, deep breaths, puff your chest up. It was actually proven. If you stand there, looking up, stupid grin, puff your chest, hands on your hips, for I think it was a few minutes or something. Testosterone levels increased by about 20%. I can't remember the figures, but
it was. Do that on the way into the gym?
Yeah, it was studies, like it was proven that your testosterone increased. And for guys, when you got low testosterone, you have low confidence, you feel like shit. When your estrogen levels get high, that's when you get really hormonal, you get aggressive, you get moody, you get down. So for a guy, it's really important to have good testosterone levels. There's a perfect way to do it. So get moving straight away. Change your physiology. That will change your mindset straight away. Then there's lots more things we can do with 7-day challenges and all shit like this. But here's just one little story that I got for you.
Go on then.
And I think you're there now because you're being able to talk to this and put it out to public. You're letting go of it. It's part of the healing process. It's great that you've got to this point now. But I tell this to a lot of people. A lot of the shit that ever happened to you in the past, whenever you think about it, or you can't think about it, it angers you, or you get really down, or you feel worthless, whatever, put you in that bad state. So then I say to you, if you went to the cinema tonight, well, not now because we're on lockdown, but after lockdown, you go to the cinema and you choose a random film and it costs you, like, what is it, the cinema now? It's about £30, isn't it, when you want some popcorn and a drink? £30 is a lot of money. So you pay your money, you go in, film drags on with the adverts, nearly 3 fucking hours, and it was the worst piece of shit film you've ever seen in your life. You come out, you're pissed off. You're like, fuck, I was wasted 3 hours of my life, spent £30. Go home pissed off. Next day, would you go to the cinema and watch that movie again, knowing how shit it is, knowing the money it costs? It's a painful experience. Would you go and watch it again?
Would you relive the same shit experience? Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. People do this. If you go to cinema every single day and watch that painful movie, knowing it's painful, isn't it the same thing about focusing on something that happened? It's like something shit happened. That's the first time you watch that film. Now the next day you get up and you rethink and relive that experience again. It's not happening to you, but you're feeling it because you're thinking about it. What you focus on is what you feel. So when you put it that way, it's fucking stupid, ain't it? You wouldn't go back to the movie and watch it, but quite often, many of us will relive these experiences and piss ourselves off or get angry or get down. And some people will cling on to these shitty movies in their head for many, many years. When you have the choice to watch a different movie, watch a fucking comedy or an adventure movie, you don't have to watch that depressing shit over and over again. That's one thing that really hit me hard. When I first heard that story, I realized that I'm in control of my thoughts. And when I realized that I can think whatever I want, when I'm reliving a shitty moment, I think, am I that stupid? Do I want to feel that pain? Do I want to? The answer is obviously no. So why would I do it? Fuck that off. Don't need to watch that movie anymore. That one's in the bin. I get to choose whatever movie I fucking want.
See, this is the thing. This is like the weird descent I had was it was even on my playlist, music. And my
So
music,
your first go to.
it was just I could scroll through. Like I've probably still got a few on there, but it was all depressing. And
Yeah.
you play a depressive song because you're feeling a certain way, expecting to feel another certain way, but because of the tone of the music and the format of it, it's never. It was. I don't know why. I'd spend hours listening to the saddest shit you've ever heard of in your life,
Yeah.
expecting to come out of it like, oh well, that's better now. And I don't even know why. I don't even know why.
Sometimes, I mean, the brain's amazing, and I study it a lot, and it fascinates me. I love to study people and watch what they do and why they do it. Figure out why. There's always a reason why. A lot of it's pain and pleasure. Every action you do is to gain pleasure or avoid pain. But going back to those 6 needs, if you do an action that gives you 2 to 3 of those needs, it becomes an addiction. It doesn't matter if that action needs to give you a bad result or a good result, as long as it's giving you those needs. So say, for instance, another one of the needs is love and connection. Everyone will find a way to get some kind of love or connection. So some people hate fucking people and they've had bad experiences, so they get a dog. That dog gives them love and connection every day, and it's a shitty way, but it's fulfilling that need. They've found a way. So some people say, like, you ever met that guy? He's like a hypochondriac. He's always something wrong with him, and like he's always. You got to feel sorry for him, but half the time you just think, like, is it really that bad? Because a lot of the time, there's something shit happens. That guy might be a bit lonely. He's got no real friends, and if I said to you, "Oh, you okay? Yeah, cool. Ah, oh, wicked, mate. See you later." You've had no loving connection. You've had a quick, brief couple of seconds.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I say, "Are you okay?" "Oh shit, no, I got this pain here, this and that." "Oh, mate, I'll come and give you a hug." Or, "How you doing, mate? Are you sure you're okay? Can I do anything for you?" You've just got connection now.
Yeah.
And that's meeting one of the needs. And sometimes people are so lonely that it becomes an addiction to always have something wrong with them or moan about something, just so people come and say, "Are you okay?" But is that a good, or is it going to give you a negative or a positive future? Because right now I'm getting pleasure of you connecting with me, but in the long run, eventually you're going to get pissed off and avoid me because you're like, "Oh, that Dean, is always something fucking wrong with him. He's so miserable and he fucking puts a downer on my day." People start avoiding you, don't they?
Yeah.
So you've got to really think and think about every action that you do is going to create a future,
Yeah.
right? So whatever I do now is going to either have a good impact or a bad impact on something in my future. And this is what baffles me, is that people sit around being miserable, expecting happiness to fall in their lap. Something's going to happen that's going to make me happy. Nothing can make you happy but your mindset, the way you see things. Like, back to the glass, I'll either be happy because I've got half a drink, or I'll be pissed off. If you only see things in a pissed off way,
Yeah.
let me try and explain this. So I'll use some props here. If I can pop these up without knocking my drinks over. Pretend this is a canyon, and this is a little man. I want to get from one side of the canyon to the other, and I don't know how to. So basically, in your head, you've got trillions and neurons. These are little neurons, and when you tell your brain to do something, there's a little electric pulse goes from one to the other, and it tells you to do something, and it makes these pathways. So imagine this little man. What he does, he chucks a grappling hook over to one side, and it clings on, and he skimmies across this rope, and it's fucking hard work, and it takes a while. Finally, it gets to the other side, and you've made a connection. That's when you learn something. It was hard. So then the second time, he took another rope across, so now I can skimmy on my feet and my hands. It's hard, but it's a little bit easier. Then you do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until eventually you got that many ropes that you just effortlessly walk across. And that's how you learn something, get good at it. So this is why, like, when you learn to drive a car, at first you got your clutch, there's so many things going on, you stall the car or you're panicking. 6 months of driving, you'll drive home and you'll forget who was driving. How did I get here? Because you become so good at it. You made so many pathways that you don't even think anymore. Now it's drummed into your subconsciousness. Your body's better at doing it than you're conscious at doing it. So that's how you learn something and how your brain works. That's the same in any action you do. So if I think, if I'm down and depressed, I'm making a connection to look for sadness and depression. Every time I do that, I'm making a highway to become depressed and to practicing happiness. So I've got a little dirt track to happiness. So now it's really hard for me to see anything happy, but it's easy to find the bad. Yeah. A good thing is these studies were done on monkeys. Horrible experiment, but we learnt a lot. Basically, got these not monkeys, it was a chimpanzee, sorry. They got a chimp and they had him tied up and he had nothing but his finger to move, and there's a button. Every time he pressed the button, he got a little treat. His brain was wired up to the computer, and you could see in his brain the activity of what caused when he told his finger to move, it lit up. Yeah. So after doing this for so many times, the activity in this area of the brain increased massively, like 60% or something. So then they tied his finger up so he couldn't use it at all. After the same period of time, where it increased by 60%, it went down less than what it was when it started. So what you don't use, you lose. So the good thing is, you got that highway of depression. Yeah. And you force yourself to be happy, you start to build more connections to find happiness, and the depression get less and less and less. So it's really hard to start with, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, the easier it is. So eventually you'll have a highway to happiness, and it will be hard to find anything depressive. And that's how your brain works. It's amazing how it all works.
So it's basically to force yourself to be happy in a way that's going to force you to disconnect from whatever shit you were dealing with.
Recognize, first you get to recognize what you're doing, change your physiology, change your mind state, and search for the good. So another bit of science information for you, how the brain works. There's a small part of your brain called the RAS, reticulated activated system. And this small part of the brain is like a filter system. So basically, any time around you, there's probably 2 to 3 billion bits of information that your subconsciousness can take in. You're only conscious of seeing about 2 to 3,000. So you think out of billions, you see a tiny fraction of the actual information that's there. So at any one point, there's good bits, there's bad bits, there's normal bits. Your reticulated activated system will only find what's most important to you. So say like a little test here. You know what's in your room, so it might not work so well. But if you look around your room now and see everything that's red in your room, look around it. So everything that's red, look around your room. Everything that's red. Now close your eyes. Close your eyes. Tell me everything in a room that's green. Okay, open your eyes now, look for green. Is there more green now than what you thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, why? Was it there before? Of course it was. But you told your brain to look for red, so it only picked out everything that was red. So when you consciously tell your brain what to look for, it will search for the information and find it. If you're not telling your brain what to search for, your subconsciousness will do it for you. Yeah. So all these programs from a child growing up that have been drummed in, it will find any piece of information to get you what it thinks is important to you. And if your programs support bad behaviors or to look for bad things and be depressive, out of all of that good and bad, all the opportunities that are around you, you'll only see the shit. You'll be searching for the brown, let's say the feces of life. If you teach yourself to look for the good, you start seeing opportunities that were there you've never seen before.
I've noticed this though, like Obviously, I've spent the last couple of weeks at my girlfriend's house pretty much. Normally, if I'm home, I've got my son most of the time. I've had my son with me at my girlfriend's when, I was scheduled to have him. But because I'm in a different environment, that changed. So I couldn't, like, if I was at home, I'd just be sat in my office or I'd be, doing housework, just boring shit on my own, being there. She's got kids, the energy level's higher. So you're more proactive, you do more things. I'm with someone that I love. So that's doing more things. So I think, like you say, retraining your thought process and these bad habits, so to speak, I think that's been working without me even realizing, because I've changed my situation of where I am. So obviously, I'm not saying that where my house is full of bad vibes and that, but I think because
your environment will have a massive impact.
Yeah, I think because I am on my own all the time, and it's just me and my little boy, it's so easy to fall back into that. So I think being there, because there's a different dynamic, because she's got a teenager, she's got other kids. Every hour is different to the next hour, because you might be chatting to a teenager, then chatting to like a 6-year-old, or then I'm chatting to her, and then a friend, somebody's come round, and then we're planning meals and this, that, and the other. And I think like that refers back to like what you're saying. For me personally, anyway, that changing like my situation of where I am has also started to change how I'm processing the shit. So say if I was at home and I was going to put music on, I'd put shit music on. But when I went there, they've always got music on. That is
music, like upbeat going.
Yeah, it's full of music, because obviously there's different ages. So it's pop to fucking, I don't know, Ed Sheeran, the usual crap, but it's all upbeat. The vibe is
you might not like it, but you find your foot tapping to it and you go and you're like, oh, fuck, what am I doing?
There's energy with that music.
Yes.
I've always been a massive, like, all day, every day I'd put music on if I could. I've always got it on when I'm doing like housework and, stuff like that. And I presume you're probably very similar. But just changing the music changed.
Massive.